Well, I'm announcing this morning that I am withdrawing from the 2020 race. And this campaign has never been about me. It's been about big ideas to move the country forward, ideas that can get done, bringing this country together, and most importantly, beating Donald Trump. And I've campaigned harder than anyone in Iowa. I've been to all 99 counties. I've done hundreds of events across this great state. But it's clear to me on Monday, on caucus night, I will not have sufficient support to get to the 15% viability threshold that, as you know, John, is needed to get delegates out of Iowa. But my support is sufficient enough to take from other more moderate candidates. And I just don't want to do that because I think we need a candidate who's running in the center, who can bring this country together to solve problems, to accomplish the objectives that we need to do, which is to beat Trump and govern in the future. So that's my news today. It's pretty clear to me that my support, which is particularly strong in rural Iowa, where I've spent a lot of time, they're looking for problem solvers. They're looking for someone who's got realistic solutions, pragmatic solutions to the big issues of our time. And so there's several candidates running in Iowa that meet that criteria. And so I'm not endorsing anyone. I'm not directing any of my supporters to go to any particular candidate. Well, there's a few top of mind that obviously meet that criteria. I think Vice President Biden does. I think Senator Klobuchar does. I think Mayor Buttigieg does. I think there are several. And again, I'm not endorsing anyone, but it's clear to me to have the best chance of beating Donald Trump, which is the most important thing for our party at this moment in time, and to actually be able to govern and kind of stop the noise and bring this country together and put forth big ideas, but pragmatic ideas. We need someone with that type of orientation. And I think it's incredibly important. And so for me, I think at this moment in time, this is not the purpose God has for me. And so what I want to do is what's right for my party, what's good for the country, and continue to advocate for the ideas that have been so important to my campaign and in many ways so unique. And to some extent, a lot of things that candidates are talking about now are things that I started talking about very early in this campaign. So I think we've clearly shaped the debate in a very positive way. And now is the time for the voters to make that important choice. So look, I'm going to support and do everything I can to help get the Democratic nominee in the White House and beat Donald Trump. So I will support whoever our nominee is. And I think any of our nominees can win. But I do think, if you look at what's going on in the country right now, right, the economy is not working for everyone, but let's face it, unemployment is relatively low. And people like Bernie Sanders, who are running on, throwing the whole U.S. economy out the window and starting from scratch. He's running on taking private health insurance away from 180 million Americans. I just think that makes our job so much harder in terms of beating Donald Trump. And I also think that's not real governing. That's not responsible leadership, because those things aren't going to happen. So, just to be clear, I am absolutely going to support the Democratic nominee because the most important thing for us to do is to beat Donald Trump. Let me try to make it positive. I think some of the other candidates I mentioned have a better chance. So yes, obviously, I do think that's I think Senator Sanders and Senator Warren, they have a tougher campaign against Donald Trump. For the reasons I said, listen, I've always said in this campaign, the Democratic Party should be the party of addition, not subtraction. So when we talk about fixing health care and we talk about making sure the uninsured have health care in this country, which my proposal does, for example, their proposal takes health care away from a lot of people and forces them on some new government plan. I think that's a hard way to win an election. I think throwing out the entire U.S. economy in many ways and starting from scratch with a central planning type approach, I think that's a tough way to win the election. Will I campaign incredibly hard for them if they're the nominee? Absolutely. But laying my cards on the table, I absolutely believe more moderate candidates that can win in the center and bring people together, they are our best chance of beating Donald Trump. And I want to make sure the odds of those candidates being viable in the Iowa caucus are as high as possible. I have significant support here in Iowa, but not enough to get to 15%. But as I said, enough to take votes away from some of them. And I don't think that's productive. I think my campaign has been enormously constructive the whole time. and I don't want it to be reductive in these last couple of years. I've had some amazing supporters here in Iowa, and I want to thank them all. And of course, most importantly, I want to thank my amazing wife and my 4 daughters. It's been an amazing journey. We've made a difference, and now we've got to win in November and actually start governing in this country.